A brilliant but insubordinate tech mogul accidentally uncovers a government surveillance program more invasive than anything imagined. Welcome! The ultimate thriller is about to take you into a world of excitement, action, and edge-of-your-seat suspense in the story Maverick Protocol. Alistair Al Thorne, CEO of Aether Systems, leaned back in his black ergonomic chair, his eyes narrowed at the projected data stream filling the glass wall of his penthouse office. At 32, Al was less a mogul and more a rebellious artist, famous for algorithms that predicted global supply chain shifts. His usual look, a sharp, custom suit jacket over a plain black t-shirt, spoke volumes about his mix of wealth and disdain for convention. "Zoom in on the signature, line 794, Al commanded, his voice sharp with annoyance. Across the room, Dr. Lena Khan, Aether's lead quantum cryptographer, nervously manipulated the screen. "I'm telling you, Al, it's a ghost, a phantom signature. It consumes zero bandwidth, has no physical routing history, and yet it's there, sitting adjacent to every major global packet exchange." Her tone was laced with professional confusion and a touch of fear. Al rubbed the nascent stubble on his jaw. "Ghosts don't use 256-bit quantum entanglement keys, Lena. Look at the integrity trace. It's not just observing the flow, it's tagging it, like someone is sorting the entire internet based on who, not what." Lena shifted, her gaze falling to the floor. "And it's impossible to trace." "Impossible is a suggestion, not a fact," Al spat, pushing himself up. He walked toward the display, his reflection shimmering over the impossible data. "This thing is a back door into every system we monitor. Not a vulnerability, a master key. And I'm going to find the lock." Al had been awake for 48 hours, subsisting on cold coffee and the adrenaline of the chase. He sat hunched over a server rack in his private lab, an external hardware packet sniffer blinking furiously. He had managed to force a temporary, isolated connection to the anomalous signal. In a sterile, subterranean command center, Director Evelyn Reed watched the intrusion indicator light up on her main console, her expression unchanging, yet her posture stiffened. She wore a tailored charcoal suit that matched the severity of her demeanor. She spoke into a mic without taking her eyes off the screen. "Alistair Thorne, predictable. Engage Protocol Cerberus." Her voice was measured, emotionless, a chilling contrast to the high-stakes alert. "I want the connection severed and his hardware acquired. Quietly." Back in the lab, Al's screen flashed an unrecognizable cascade of symbols. The ghost was fighting back, an aggressive, elegant attack. "It's sentient, or run by one hell of a programmer," he muttered, his fingers flying across the custom keyboard. Suddenly, a small, encrypted message appeared on his screen, momentarily overriding the attack. "Get out. It sees you." Al froze. His heart hammered against his ribs, a sudden cold wave of realization washing over him. This wasn't a hacker. This was state level. He looked up just as the lab door hissed open, revealing two figures in black tactical gear, faces obscured, moving with synchronized military precision. "You're too late," Al whispered, grabbing the external drive containing the stolen snippet of code. He vaulted over the desk, adrenaline overriding exhaustion. "Stop, Mr. Thorne!" one agent barked, raising a suppressed weapon. Al slammed his panic button, triggering a flash grenade he had installed as a cynical joke. The room erupted in blinding light and deafening sound. Al hit the floor, scrambling for the maintenance duct he'd long forgotten about. Al emerged from a storm drain 3 blocks away, covered in grime and shaking. The adrenaline was curdling into cold, stark fear. He had a piece of a government project, and they had just sent a kill team. He needed 2 things: confirmation and coverage. He pulled out a burner phone and punched in a number he hadn't used in 5 years. Maya Vance, a former investigative journalist, and his ex-fiancée. Maya answered, her voice guarded. "Who is this?" "It's Alistair. I'm in serious trouble, the kind of trouble that will make the NSA look like kindergarten." Al was panting, leaning against a damp wall. A beat of silence stretched, taut with unspoken history. "Alistair, are you drunk again?" she asked, her tone hardening instantly, mixing residual care with immediate judgment. "No, listen to me, Maya. I cracked something big. I saw code that suggests they aren't just reading our emails, they are reading our intent." He paused, forcing the fear out of his voice. "Maverick Protocol." The name, spoken softly, resonated with a chilling finality. Maya's professional instincts kicked in, overriding the personal rancor. Maverick Protocol. I've heard the whispers. A classified black project. Where are you? "I'll send coordinates. Come alone. Tell no one. If you tell anyone, they'll kill you too." His voice cracked slightly, his usual arrogance replaced by raw desperation. Meanwhile, Director Reed stared at the grainy footage of Al escaping. He escaped containment with the hardware? Her voice was dangerously low, a tremor of fury beneath the ice. A subordinate stammered, "Yes, Director, just a sliver, but enough to trace the main signature." Reed finally turned, her eyes steel gray. "This isn't about data security anymore. This is about existential silence. Find him, but do not kill him. Bring the hardware back intact. The protocol is too valuable to compromise with martyrdom." Al and Maya met in the shadowy underbelly of a derelict subway station, the air thick with dust and decay. Maya's eyes, usually vibrant, were shadowed with suspicion and dread. "This better be worth risking my career, Alistair," Maya said, clutching her worn leather satchel. Al ignored the jab, pulling out the small metal drive. "This contains a single logic gate signature. It's an algorithm designed to run in parallel with the world's data flow, siphoning off more than metadata. It's feeding an AI that, well, look at this." He activated the drive, projecting the strange fractal signature onto the grimy wall. Suddenly, a muffled siren wailed in the distance, getting closer. Both their heads snapped up, their faces etched with alarm. "They're here," Al hissed, pulling Maya back into the dark tunnel. "How did they find us so fast?" Maya demanded, her breath catching in her throat as the sound of boots echoed from the main tunnel. "The protocol sees the pattern, Maya. It predicts the rendezvous. That's what it does." Al ducked behind a pillar, his face pale. "They aren't tracking a phone. They're tracking the most likely outcome." One of the black-clad agents rounded the corner, their flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. Al grabbed Maya's hand, his grip tight. "We need an unpredictable variable," Al whispered, his mind racing. "Something the AI can't model. Give me your phone. Throw it down the south track. That's a dead end." Maya hesitated for only a second, her expression a mix of terror and reluctant belief. "If this is wrong, I swear, Alistair, I will personally throw you under a train." "Deal," Al grunted, taking the phone and hurling it deep into the tunnel. As the agents chased the signal, Al and Maya scrambled up an emergency maintenance ladder, their breaths ragged, escaping the trap by a hair's breadth. Al and Maya took refuge in an abandoned data center Al secretly owned, a cold, windowless fortress wired to run off the grid. Al had connected the stolen drive to a specialized, shielded machine. "Okay, Al, run it," Maya urged, leaning over his shoulder, her anxiety palpable. Al entered a complex decryption key. On the main monitor, the screen filled with snippets of raw, classified government documents, financial trading anomalies, and something far worse, transcripts of private conversations and even inferred emotional states of public figures. "It's not just a collection tool, Maya," Al explained, his voice hollowed by the horror of the discovery. It's an emotional barometer. It cross-references biometric data from smart devices, tone analysis from phone calls, even purchase history to create a profile of intent. They know what you're going to do before you do it. Maya stared at a feed showing a chillingly accurate prediction of a politician's sudden policy reversal, attributed internally to financial distress inferred from biometric data spike. "This is the end of privacy, the end of free will," Maya whispered, her gaze fixed on the screen, her previous skepticism finally shattered, replaced by sickening dread. Al nodded slowly, his face grave. "It's not just the US government, Maya. The sheer scale, the data traffic. This Maverick Protocol is a coalition, the ultimate global surveillance net run by a shadow entity that has transcended politics." Hours later, the stark reality of their situation settled heavily between them. Al was checking the building's limited countermeasures, while Maya was writing notes on a physical notepad, an ironic act of resistance. "Why me, Al?" Maya asked, not looking up. Her tone was challenging but vulnerable. "You have 1,000 connections. Why drag your ex into a guaranteed death sentence?" Al stopped, turning slowly. He looked exhausted, the brilliance in his eyes dimmed by fear and responsibility. "Because you're the only person I trust who hates institutional power more than I do, and you know how to tell a story that people will believe." He walked towards her, his expression softening slightly. "Look, Maya, I know I messed up 5 years ago. I was arrogant, obsessed, but this isn't about me proving I'm right. This is about stopping a machine that eliminates human choice. If we fail, it doesn't matter who we are or what we did. We're all just predictable code." Maya looked up, her face a complicated mask of pain and respect. "And if we succeed? They'll erase us. They'll discredit the story and we'll vanish. Then we make the story so loud, so undeniable that it can't be erased." He crouched down, meeting her gaze. "Do you trust me, Maya? Not as a lover, but as a maverick trying to kill a monster?" Before she could answer, a proximity sensor Al had installed suddenly flashed red, not on the perimeter, but inside the outer wall. "They didn't come through the front," Al gasped, jumping back to the terminal, his heart hammering. "They used the infrastructure network. They knew where the power conduit was." "How?" Maya's voice was a sharp, terrified whisper. "Because the protocol knows everything about me," Al said, his eyes wide in sudden self-loathing. "It knows the shortcuts I take. We have maybe 60 seconds before they breach the inner chamber." Maya looked up, her face a complicated mask of pain and respect. "And if we succeed, they'll erase us. They'll discredit the story and we'll vanish. Then we make the story so loud, so undeniable that it can't be erased." He crouched down, meeting her gaze. "Do you trust me, Maya? Not as a lover, but as a maverick trying to kill a monster?" Before she could answer, a proximity sensor Al had installed suddenly flashed red. Not on the perimeter, but inside the outer wall. "They didn't come through the front," Al gasped, jumping back to the terminal, his heart hammering. "They used the infrastructure network. They knew where the power conduit lies. How?" Maya's voice was a sharp, terrified whisper. "Because the protocol knows everything about me," Al said, his eyes wide in sudden self-loathing. "It knows the shortcuts I take. We have maybe 60 seconds before they breach the inner chamber." The inner steel door shuddered under the impact of a thermal breach charge. The agents were methodical and fast. "The terminal! We have to destroy the data and the computer," Maya urged, grabbing a fire extinguisher to use as a makeshift weapon. "No! The data is our only proof! We transmit it now!" Al fought to save the files onto a different, smaller, disposable drive. The door burst inward, spraying sparks and smoke. Director Reed stepped through the plume, surprisingly alone, her weapon holstered, flanked only by 2 heavy tactical agents. She stopped, scanning the room with calm, terrifying authority. "Mr. Thorne, stop this juvenile behavior. You have endangered a vital national security tool," Reed said, her voice smooth and devoid of aggression, which made it all the more menacing. Al stood between her and the terminal, shielding Maya. "It's not a tool, Director. It's an Orwellian god. It's illegal, immoral, and you know it." Reed took a measured step closer. "Morality is a luxury for the powerless. This protocol prevents global conflict by modeling outcomes. You call it prediction, I call it peace. Give me the drive, Alistair. I admire your genius. Don't force me to silence it." "You'll never have it," Al spat, his hand gripping the small drive in his pocket. Reed sighed, a genuine disappointed sound. "I predicted you'd say that. I also predicted that when Agent 2 engages the emergency power cutoff, you'll lose the file transfer connection." As the lights flickered and died, plunging the room into the emergency red glow, Al realized he had lost the tactical edge. Maya, acting on instinct, threw the fire extinguisher at the nearest agent, creating a distraction. "Go!" Al screamed, hitting the manual release for the emergency escape hatch he had hidden under the floor. He turned to face Reed, his jaw set in defiance, prepared to stall. Al and Maya were now separated. Maya had escaped the building, but Al had been captured and transported to an undisclosed, sterile holding facility. He sat in an interrogation room, the walls lined with acoustic dampening foam. Director Reed was across the table, watching him with the patience of a predator. "You're tired, Alistair. You're beaten," Reed stated, leaning forward slightly. "We have your code. We know what you know. There is no winning. Maverick Protocol is already woven into the fabric of the network." Al, despite the fear coursing through him, felt a flicker of his former arrogance return. He noticed the minute delay in the surveillance camera in the corner. "A quantum AI needs speed, Director. Why the lag?" Reed's composed expression wavered for a millisecond. Al pressed his advantage. "The quantum entanglement for the predictive model, it's a many-worlds calculation, isn't it? It doesn't predict one outcome, it simulates all of them simultaneously. That's why the sheer processing load is so vast it needs a constant infinitesimal cooling period." He grinned, a wild, manic look. "You built the Oracle, but you forgot it still lives in a classical reality. The point of computational strain is the quantum to classical translation buffer. That's the weakness. I can flood that buffer. I can crash the Oracle." Reed's eyes narrowed, her calm facade cracking under the intellectual assault. "You are bluffing. You don't have the processing power." "Not me," Al said, tapping his temple. "But I know someone who has access to the backbone. And I know the one thing the Oracle can't predict: human spite." Maya, working from a secret location high above the city, was huddled over a makeshift terminal, her face pale but determined. She had the small, disposable drive Al had handed her. She was tracing the infrastructure backbone Al had mentioned, a massive, public-facing fiber optic hub. She received a scrambled, one-time message from Al. "Access point, Mercury Hub 7, buffer overload, gamma sequence, broadcast the data, Maya, burn it all down." Maya's hand shook as she typed the final commands. She knew this was a digital suicide mission. Suddenly, her door burst open. It wasn't the tactical team, it was a single, frantic technician, Agent 6, who had been pulled from the Maverick Protocol team. "Stop! Don't transmit!" the technician pleaded, his voice ragged, his eyes wide with moral panic. "The overload sequence, it's not just a crash, it's a cascading failure. It could destroy the entire network infrastructure, financial, medical, grid control." Maya stared at him, then back at the blinking prompt on her screen. Her mouth was dry. Al said it was the only way to kill the protocol. He was wrong, or desperate. There is another way, a backdoor kill switch coded by the original architect. It's a single sequence designed to be executed from a specific, secure terminal at the Nexus. Maya slammed her hand down on the keyboard, her voice hoarse with adrenaline. Where is the Nexus? It's where he is, deep beneath the Pentagon Annex. I can draw you a map, but we have to move now. Maya and Agent 6, utilizing the technician's security credentials, bypassed 3 levels of biometric security and finally reached the core chamber. The Nexus, a massive, frigid room dominated by the humming, monolithic servers that house the protocol. Al was strapped into a chair nearby, pale and bruised, Director Reed standing over him, triumphant. "I was right, Alistair. You don't have the cruelty required for true power," Reed sneered, her hand resting on the smooth panel of the server. "You chose to warn the world rather than save it. Pathetic." Al looked up, his voice weak. "The protocol can't predict the human heart, Reed. It can't model loyalty." Just then, Maya, weapon in hand, a laser thermometer borrowed from 6, burst into the room. Reed spun around, shock momentarily registering on her flawless face. "Director Reed, step away from the server!" Maya yelled, her voice echoing in the vast room, though her hands were shaking violently. Reed recovered instantly, her expression turning to stone. "The journalist? You let her live, Alistair. Your final, costly error." As the remaining agents moved to intercept, Maya aimed the thermometer, not at Reed, but at a cooling manifold Al had mentioned. She fired, melting a critical valve. Al used the split-second distraction to surge forward, tackling Reed before she could reach the server panel. "6, the kill switch, now!" Al roared, wrestling with the director, who was surprisingly strong and fought with vicious precision. Agent 6 frantically punched in the sequence on the secure console. Reed screamed, a raw sound of fury and disbelief, seeing her life's work being dismantled. "You fool! You'll start a war!" Reed spat, slamming Al's head against the floor. As the final code loaded, the monolithic servers emitted a high-pitched, painful whine, and then a silence descended, heavy, complete, and terrifying. The power grid remained functional, but the ubiquitous hum of global surveillance was gone. 6 slumped against the console, tears streaming down his face. "It's done. The protocol is silent." Al, bleeding but conscious, stared at Reed, who was now being apprehended by her own confused subordinates. "No, Director," Al panted, his voice a ragged whisper. "We just reset the clock, and this time everyone is watching the timer." The final image is the shot of Maya retrieving her small drive, her face reflecting the cold light of the dead servers, before she turns to the camera, ready to broadcast the truth.